Hello, my name is Harriton Boatco. With us, we have Marko Batricevic from the Balkan Restaurant, and we have Alex Mihailovic. Is that correct, Alex?
Mihailovic, but very close.
Mihailovic.
Better than most people say.
Yeah, tomato, tomato,
Exactly.
potato. And we're back to Alex. Alex, tell us about the practice of media. There's a difference when you were in Serbia, when you were covering it as a news reporter, and basically you're trying to get the news out, the reality, the truth of what goes on. And then you go to commercial TV, which you've had to do in Canada. And you've done feature stories as well as news anchoring as well as talk programs. You've already cited to us the differences. How did it feel like? What was it like when you were news reporting compared to actually tearing apart the news?
Well, reporting, you know what, it's a nice thing to do, especially when you start off in television. I think, you know, one of the most important things to get young reporters to do is to learn all facets of the business. And I was fortunate enough to be sent out into what we call the sticks, out into the boonies, way outside of Toronto, about 6 hours north of Toronto, very cold little town called Sault Ste. Marie. And I had to do everything. So I had to carry my own camera. I had to write and source my own things. I had to edit my own stuff. I had to voice my own stuff. There was nobody else there. It was me and 3 other reporters who had to do the same thing. And it was there for 2 years. And within those 2 years, you learn the craft. You learn the craft of what a reporter really is supposed to do. And when you get into the big city, and when you have your own cameraman, you have your own editor, you know what to criticize and what not to criticize, because you know the people's limitations and what can be done.
So before you break the rules, learn it.
Exactly.
And learn it well.
Exactly.
But was truth always an issue with you?
Absolutely. I mean, I think that is the #1 thing that you try to get out of news and what you try to do as a reporter.
Well, how do you handle managers, producers that are biased and tell you, Alex, now we got to go hit this guy. Let's not bring the truth out there now. Let's tweak it the other way around. How do you handle corruption and graft like that?
As a reporter, you often go out to a story with a bias because you believe, hey,
your personal bias.
Your personal bias. And you expect a certain outcome. And I'll tell you, a good percentage of the time, I'd say even the majority of the time, I was surprised that my bias was incorrect until you start interviewing people, until you start talking to people, and then you could actually see the truth yourself, which is a pretty amazing thing. And when you're allowed to tell the public that, that's even better.
So now, biases exist.
Of course.
You agree with that?
Absolutely.
We all have biases.
Absolutely. But one of the features that you showed at the very beginning, the story that I did about Serbia and about the war in Serbia, my news director at the time, or the person that was in charge of our show, which was a news magazine show, I wrote it a certain way about Milosevic, the then-time president of Serbia. And
I saw that.
He didn't like it. So he had to tweak it to be more politically correct in Canadian terms because Canada fought a war against Serbia. You see.
Yeah.
So my take on it, which wasn't really anything one way or the other, was just not good enough. He wanted a little bit more hard-hitting against the Serbs and against Serbia, and that's the way it was written, and that's the way I had to speak it.
And you have no choice.
No. Absolutely not, unless you want to be fired.
So if people in media are employees and not necessarily the owners of the broadcast station, are we mere actors following the higher interests, or what we call the money game? You're my employee, you better do as I tell you. Can media stand out and say, no, I want to tell the truth? The truth does not matter. No, I want to tell the truth. You tell it the way I want to.
You tell it the way they want to. A lot of the time.
So we lose.
We lose very often, but I have to say the last place where I've worked in Canada, which is a very right-wing station, and I'm quite the opposite when it comes to many issues. Some issues I have to say that I do agree with the right wing, but they've allowed me to say things that I was never allowed to say on television before. There was actually, when it comes to the Ukraine issue, there was a petition of over 1,000 people who signed this petition online to get me fired because of my stance. There's a huge Ukrainian lobby in Canada.
You're a controversy, yeah.
Of course. And
he's proud of it.
Oh, that's where you get your badge of honor. But the thing is, my boss has said, you know what, we're not going to fire you, but you're not allowed to talk about Ukraine anymore. So it's a win-lose situation, but at least I wasn't fired.
Are all media practitioners like him, Marko, in Serbia? I mean, he's a Serbian, one way or the other.
I'm Canadian, actually.
You're Canadian.
I'm born and raised in Canada, born and raised in Toronto, but my background is Serbian. My parents.
Your parents, and because you stayed there many years.
I was there for 4 years.
Are they like that on TV
in
back
Serbia,
home?
Under socialism, they were also told what to speak.
Today you have freedoms.
That's what they say.
I don't know. Do you have freedoms? You're allowed to breathe.
Yeah, well, now with like ordinary citizen, he can post things on his own social media. He doesn't necessarily have to listen to the news, or he can get the informations and then he can talk his mind.
What do you think of social media Marco was talking about?
Absolutely love it. It is the revolution. I think it's the revolution that government never expected, especially when it comes to the States. If you remember, 1975, you had a couple of guys by the name of Pearl and Wolfowitz. They wrote a plan for how many, 30, 40, 50 years for the States. They never saw the internet coming at them. And that's what you're seeing with the political change in the States right now. It's the internet that is directly hitting government, and it's the internet that's directly hitting media. It's making media change the way things we do, because there are voices there of these, what we call citizen journalists, which journalists don't really like, because how do we get paid if everybody's a citizen journalist? But the fact of the matter is that they keep the heat under our feet, and it's an important thing to have.
And if you tell a lie, or you say it too slanted and too biased, and knowing it's not the truth, you will be found out. Is that correct?
Well, absolutely.
That's the beauty of social media.
Absolutely.
So it's not critical. It's not necessarily always critical when social media says this, this, and that. It's like praising your restaurant. If someone starts taking off about Balkan, and I'm saying it, discrediting you on social media, while I may have the right, you can now directly reply. Correct?
Before social media came into play, you would hear one side of the story, but now you can...
Both sides.
You can just say, hey, I didn't say that.
Is that difficult for us?
Well, you have to be very careful, because even we use social media as a tool to get information for our newscasts. And the fact of the matter is the internet is a massive thing, and there's a lot of lies out there too. So you have to be
There's a lot of lies out there. Got to be careful.
So you have to sift through it as well. As journalists, what we have to do is check, double check, triple check, and quadruple check. When I'm working as an anchor, you have your writers. How many times have I caught my writers getting off of one source, and then you have to double, triple check things, and you're like, where did you get this information? How do you believe one source? You are a writer or you're a journalist. You need to check first of all, the credentials of the person that you're getting your information from. And second of all, the source, which is the exact same thing actually. And third of all, compare sources. Look at 3, 4, 5. That's how much information is out there.
But sometimes that can be problematic. For example, Wikipedia is the combination of sources of the internet. Basically, when people update, upgrade, and to try and validate whatever that is put down in Wikipedia, but it does not necessarily mean it's correct. And unlike the encyclopedia, for example, which is supposed to have concrete evidence or complete, straight definition, verification of specific facts or the presentation of words or a combination of words. The Wikipedia, for example, can be changed because it's a combination of social change, correct? I mean, I can log on Wikipedia and make my own definition. I remember my son telling me, hey, Dad, be careful. Wikipedia is not exactly the all truth and be all truth.
Well, I could be the king of Siam on Wikipedia for one day until somebody comes and changes it for me,
Yeah,
right?
yeah, exactly.
It's just the way it is.
So that's
right?
what you call about sourcing. Be careful, understand
Always.
it, dig deeper, and have more than one source.
Always.
Or verify.
You have to.
But sometimes verification is very difficult. You know, here in the country, we have this one problem. About 2 weeks ago was the 50th year or 70th year of a specific massacre, an occasion that happened here. It's called the Jabida. And yet, a governor and a congresswoman and a bunch of people and kids came crying, and there was a tombstone there or something that says, you know, we're mourning this massacre 70 years ago. And yet, the massacre did not happen when another writer came out and showed proof that it never existed. So how do we find out the truth when media start to compete for their own specific truths? And then they come across, it's a direct conflict. The Balkan restaurant's good. The other guy says, no, it's not, it's expensive. But I didn't say it was expensive or cheap. I just said it's good.
Yeah.
See, so the twisting of truths. How do the people that are watching us understand what the truth is?
What you just said, we talked about a historical event. History is written by the victor, is it not? And that's the exact same thing that media goes through. It's the altercation at certain times of politics and political will.
Can we lie and be consistent with our lying?
I would hope not. Yeah, but it happens. I mean, there are so many truths that last, let's say, a decade, and then all of a sudden are disproven. I have to go back to the Balkans. It's one of the stories I was talking to, General Mackenzie, that you saw off the top. General Mackenzie was a Canadian general with the United Nations that was in Bosnia. He himself, when there was an attack on a market in Bosnia, by Muslim troops on a Muslim market to kill Muslim people so that NATO would get involved and start killing Serbs, He said that to the world. This is what happened. The world, however, chose to believe that Serbs killed Muslims in this market.
Yes.
And that truth has not come out until just recently, in the past 2 years. But nobody cares anymore. NATO went in there, they bombed, they did what they wanted to do. And that's what happens over and over and over again. We can't allow things like that to happen, because that's what we're seeing in Libya, that's what we're seeing in Iraq, that's where we're seeing this massive spread right now in the Middle East. Yemen, you're looking at 3 different wars happening in one place.
Right now.
Right? So not to get into that and the different proxy wars that are going on, but the fact of the matter is, to get the true information from that, you have to dig and you have to look and you have to read. Unless, if you're not interested, then just
Do the viewers deserve the truth, or is it best we just spoon feed them with the truth that we want?
Absolutely, they deserve the truth all the time. All the time.
Alex, you've been here 4 months. You like Manila. You like the Philippines.
Oh, I don't like it. I love it.
Would you like to work in this country?
Absolutely.
How do people get in touch with you?
You can catch me on Twitter. It's AlexMSNN, at AlexMSNN, and that's my Twitter account. And there's always my Facebook account as well, and alex.mihailovich@gmail.com, which you saw at the top of the show too.
There you go. Parting words from you, Marco. Sell your restaurant.
Well, anybody who wants to taste something different, but at the same time familiar or similar to what they like, can come to any of the Balkan branches, and we'll be there to welcome you.
There you go, ladies and gentlemen. Marco's the younger brother of Martin. They're both single and they're looking for wives. So, ladies and gentlemen, for those who are looking for entrepreneurs, no, hang on. Yeah, you were saying something, Marco. Edit. See what I mean? I'm now not telling the truth.
There you
And
go.
the truth is, it's only Martin who's looking for a wife. So, ladies and gentlemen, you're invited. And we have Alex Mihailovich. I hope you've enjoyed his presentation of the truths and what media really is all about. Ladies and gentlemen, yes, it's all about the truth. Now, you may not care to hear the truth, or you might like to be spoon-fed the truth, but in the end, it's up to you. It's called, what I always call in this show, critical thought. So don't just sit there and drink your soft drink and watch. Pick up your shoe, throw it on this television set. Get mad, get real, become a body politic, participate, love your country, and try not to die doing it. Thank you very much. Alex?
Thank you.
Marco? You are what you watch.